She'll leave this marriage with nothing, just a failed accountant crawling back to her daddy's farm. Daniel's laughter roared through the courtroom, echoing like a public execution of dignity. He smirked, confident the divorce would strip Emily of every last shred of worth. But Emily didn't flinch. Behind her calm eyes burned a storm. "Let him laugh," she whispered to herself, "because the judge is about to reveal the one thing he never saw coming: my true net worth." Before we dive deeper into today's story of betrayal, sacrifice, and an unforgettable twist, make sure to subscribe to her Betrayal Stories and hit that notification bell. Here, you will always find stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and shocking turnarounds that echo the very struggles many of us face. And tell me, where are you watching from today? Drop a comment below. Who knows? The next story may remind you of your very own life. The wine glass nearly slipped from Emily Carter's hand the night she walked into that Nashville restaurant. There he was, Daniel Brooks, her husband. His laughter filled the room, his hand resting warmly over Lauren Hayes's, like they were the only two people alive. Emily didn't scream. She didn't confront. She quietly pulled out her phone. One click. The betrayal frozen in pixels, tucked into a folder no one knew existed. That night her heart shattered. But her resolve began to take shape. It wasn't the first cruelty. Evelyn Brooks, Daniel's mother, had whispered for years, "She's no match for you. Remember, we accepted her only because you insisted." Emily endured the cold stares, the backhanded comments. She cooked, kept books, managed Daniel's ventures, while her own dreams of a consulting firm sat on the shelf because Daniel said, "Your place is here, supporting me." But betrayal has a way of stripping illusions. Soon after, Daniel stormed into their living room with papers in hand. "Sign the divorce, Emily. You'll walk away with nothing. The prenup protects me, not you." His smirk widened as he added, "Pack your bags. Go crawl back to that farmhouse you came from." Her tears blurred the page. Her hands shook. For a fleeting second, she looked exactly like the broken woman he wanted her to be. But inside, a spark lit. Because while Daniel flaunted his mistress, Emily had been working in the shadows. Years of late nights, spreadsheets, and quiet investments, planting seeds watered by every insult, every dismissal. Daniel never saw it. His arrogance blinded him. The next morning, in the courthouse hallway, he made sure the world heard his contempt. "She doesn't deserve a penny," he declared, laughing to his lawyer. "By the end of today, she'll be crawling back in shame." Emily stood still, calm. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. She whispered only to herself, "Let him laugh. Soon the judge will reveal what he never saw coming." The bailiff called their names. Daniel strode inside, head high, convinced of victory. Emily followed, carrying the secret that would turn his arrogance into ruin. The courtroom reeked of old varnish and dust, a place where justice was meant to shine, but now felt more like a coffin for truth. Emily Carter sat rigid in her chair, the hard wood biting into her back. Beside her, attorney Olivia Bennett leaned close, murmuring strategies in a hushed tone. Yet Emily's eyes never strayed. They were locked on Daniel Brooks. Daniel looked like a man who thought he owned the world. His charcoal suit gleamed under the fluorescent lights, the scarlet silk tie glowing like fresh blood. He leaned ever so slightly toward Lauren Hayes, his mistress, who lounged behind him with the smugness of a woman trying on someone else's crown. Their hands brushed, deliberate, as though mocking the vows Emily had once believed in. The gavel struck. Judge Margaret Collins entered, and silence rolled over the room. Daniel's lawyer rose. His voice was butter, smooth and poisonous. "Your Honor, my client carried this marriage. He provided the home, the wealth, the life Mrs. Carter could never have dreamed of. She contributed nothing, no ambition, no value beyond what he generously allowed. The words cracked against Emily's ribs like a whip. Years of sacrifice. Every sleepless night balancing books. Every meal cooked while swallowing loneliness, reduced to nothing. Her knuckles whitened against the table edge. Daniel, watching, smirked. Then he leaned just enough for his whisper to cut through the stillness. "You're useless now." The phrase slithered into her ears, cold as a blade dipped in ice. Emily's stomach churned, yet she didn't move. Olivia's hand pressed lightly against her arm, anchoring her in place. Recess. In the hallway, voices buzzed like wasps. Evelyn Brooks, silver hair wound tight like barbed wire, stood encircled by family friends. Her chin was sharp, her words sharper. "I warned Daniel," she said, lips curving in triumph. She was beneath him from the start. A farmer's daughter playing dress-up. We tolerated her only because he insisted. Look now. Wasn't I right all along? Polite chuckles answered her. Hollow, spineless. Evelyn's eyes darted, finding Emily across the hall. They locked for a breath. Evelyn's stare like frost, daring her to speak. Emily lowered her gaze, but inside her anger coiled tight, a spring, ready to snap. Days blurred together into a theater of humiliation. Daniel strutted into hearings with Lauren at his side, her manicured fingers twined possessively around his arm. Once, Emily entered the courtroom to find Lauren seated in her chair, whispering something that sent Daniel into cruel laughter. Then came the venom at its peak. That evening, in the echoing hallway, Daniel cornered her. His voice dripped scorn. "Emily, sign over the villa, you don't need it. Lauren and I will be living there now. I'll see to it your name is erased from everything." Her breath caught. That villa wasn't just bricks and wood. It was where she had poured her laughter, her cooking, her warmth, into walls that once felt hollow. Daniel's mouth curled. "You'll have nothing. No money. No property. Maybe I'll let you keep the old car, if you behave." He walked away, shoes striking marble like a drumbeat of cruelty. Emily stood trembling, her heart ricocheting between rage and despair. Tell me, if you were in Emily's shoes, would you have screamed, shattered under the weight, or clenched your jaw and waited for the right storm to break? The cruelty spread beyond the courthouse. Rumors seeped into the streets like oil on water. Neighbors' stares lingered too long. Whispers followed her steps. She must have been the problem. Why else would he leave? Friends she had once trusted stopped calling. Invitations dried up. At a dinner party she herself had once hosted, Emily arrived alone. Through the open window, Lauren's tinkling laugh spilled into the night, wrapping around Daniel's deeper chuckle. Someone whispered, just loud enough. That's his real partner now. Emily walked away before her tears could betray her, dignity intact, though her heart felt carved out with a dull knife. But when the night grew silent, when even the tears were spent, Emily opened her laptop. A different world glowed on the screen, one Daniel never cared to notice. Rows of numbers, contracts, accounts. Quiet empires she had built in the shadows. Small investments, cautious deals, clients who trusted her mind when Daniel never did. What he dismissed as little bookkeeping had grown into something formidable. She wasn't ready to show her cards. Not yet. Timing was everything. But each insult sharpened her resolve like steel against stone. She wasn't just fighting for money. She was fighting for her dignity, for every woman who had ever been told she was useless now. Then the night came when restraint broke. Emily entered the villa to collect her belongings. The scent of her own perfume still clung faintly to the curtains, but what greeted her nearly buckled her knees. Lauren, draped in Emily's silk robe, lounged on the couch, sipping wine from Emily's favorite glass. Daniel, shirt collar unbuttoned, laughed as though mocking every ounce of her existence. "Oh, didn't expect you so soon," he said. Lauren's smile was venom. "Don't worry, Emily. We'll take good care of the place." For a heartbeat, the world tilted. But Emily steadied herself. Slowly, she lifted her phone. A click. The flash captured them in their theft, their betrayal, their arrogance. Daniel sneered. "Pathetic. You think anyone will care?" Emily didn't answer. She slipped the phone back into her pocket, spine straight, and walked out. On the surface, she looked defeated. But inside, the storm was gathering. The cruelty crescendoed. Daniel filed motion after motion, not to win, but to humiliate. Evelyn's glare from the gallery burned holes into Emily's back. Lauren sat smug, rehearsing her role as the new Mrs. Brooks. And Emily endured, because she knew something none of them knew. That evening, in a dim cafe tucked away from the courthouse chaos, Emily slid a sealed folder across the table to Olivia. The lamplight caught Olivia's face as she opened it. Her eyes widened, lips parting in disbelief. "Emily, if this is real, you're about to change everything." Emily's smile was faint but unshakable. Her voice was calm, resolute, as if destiny itself had been waiting for this moment. "It's real. And it's only the beginning." The cafe was nearly empty, the kind of place where silence clung to the walls like dust. Dim light spilled across polished wood, stretching shadows into long fingers. Emily Carter sat across from Olivia Bennett, her divorce attorney. Between them lay a folder, its edges worn, its weight heavier than stone. Olivia opened it. Page after page of contracts, deeds, bank statements. Her hands trembled. "Emily," she whispered, barely breathing. "How long have you been preparing this?" Emily leaned back, her voice steady, eyes burning with quiet fire. "For years. Every insult, every dismissal, it bought me time. Daniel thought I was invisible. He never once imagined I was building something of my own. Inside that folder was no fantasy. It was a fortress. A consulting firm hidden under a discreet LLC, investments in businesses that grew while Daniel mocked her, properties signed under her name alone. What started as late-night spreadsheets had become a portfolio worth millions. For the first time in months, Olivia smiled. The sharpness in her eyes returned. "Emily, this changes everything. He thinks you're dependent. But legally, you're untouchable. You're standing on a fortress he doesn't even know exists." Back at the Brooks villa, arrogance reigned. Daniel raised his glass high, laughter booming. Lauren Hayes curled against his chest, whispering in his ear like a queen rehearsing her coronation. Evelyn Brooks sat at the head of the table, her pearls gleaming, her smile thin as glass. "She's finished," Daniel bragged. "The prenup locks her out. Tomorrow the judge will see her for what she is. Deadweight." His friends chuckled, glasses clinking. Evelyn's voice cut the air like a knife. "About time, Daniel. She never belonged here. Better to erase her completely." Laughter echoed, but beneath it, something shifted. A tide rising in silence. The courtroom doors groaned open the next morning. Daniel strutted inside, Lauren draped over his arm, Evelyn watching from the gallery with regal pride. Emily followed, dressed in navy, posture calm, face unreadable, like still water hiding a storm. Daniel's attorney rose first, smooth as oil. "Your Honor, my client carried this marriage." Mrs. Carter brought nothing. No ambition, no contribution. She was simply dependent. Gasps murmured through the room. Then Olivia stood, the black folder in her hands. Her voice rang clear. steady but sharp. Your Honor, contrary to Mr. Brooks's claims, Mrs. Carter has built and managed a company that not only sustains her, but flourishes. Here are the records: financial statements, contracts, deeds, evidence of her independent wealth. She laid the folder down. Pages spread like wings. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's smirk cracked. His eyes narrowed, his body lunging forward. "What the hell is this?" he spat, voice low, trembling with rage. Emily's eyes met his, calm, unwavering. Silence was her blade. But this was more than numbers. It was proof of her transformation. That evening, Emily sat with Monica Reed, one of her first clients. Monica's hands clutched hers tightly. "You saved my business when no one else would. Don't let him take this away. Don't let him erase you." Later, Victoria Grant, the seasoned investor who had guided Emily, called with fire in her voice. "He still thinks you're that farm girl desperate for his approval. Let him. But when you strike, strike to end it." Even Evelyn sensed the tremor beneath her son's arrogance. At a family gathering, she cornered Emily in the corridor, her voice sharp as a whip. "Whatever trick you're trying, remember, you'll never be one of us. Daniel will crush you." Emily's reply was soft, but steel glinted beneath it. "Then maybe it's time I stop trying to be one of you." For the first time, Evelyn faltered. Lauren felt it too. At night, curled against Daniel, her whispers broke the darkness. "What if she has something? What if she surprises you?" Daniel barked a laugh, but it rang hollow. "She's nothing, Lauren. Always has been, always will be." But the edge of doubt flickered in his eyes. Meanwhile, Emily prepared more than ledgers. She gathered voices, witnesses. She filed away photographs, recordings. Not to seek vengeance alone, but to make sure truth could no longer be denied. At night, alone in her apartment, she traced the path of her life. She remembered the wide-eyed girl who thought love meant obedience, the wife who believed silence was strength. And her father's words returned, clear as dawn. "Respect isn't given by blood. It's earned through love and kindness." She whispered into the night, "And I've earned mine, even if they never admit it." The turning point came under the dim glow of a parking lot lamp. Daniel cornered her, Lauren at his side, Evelyn watching like a hawk. "Enjoy your little show, Emily." His smirk twisted. "Tomorrow the judge will laugh at your fake business. You'll be stripped bare. And then, maybe, you'll thank me for carrying you all these years." Lauren smirked. Evelyn smirked. For a heartbeat, it felt like the whole world sneered at her. Emily did not flinch. She stepped closer, her voice low but cutting. "You've mistaken silence for weakness, Daniel. Tomorrow, you'll see the difference." For the first time, his eyes flickered. Uncertainty. That night, Nashville's lights shimmered beyond her window. The city buzzed with life. But Emily stood in stillness, a quiet strength thrumming through her veins. She thought of every woman silenced, belittled, erased. She thought of her mother, of the women who had whispered thanks, of the years stolen by cruelty. And she knew. Patience had ended. The reckoning was here. As dawn painted the sky, Emily slid a small leather-bound journal into her bag. Pages filled with dates, receipts, photos, her hidden chronicle of truth. She paused before the mirror. The timid wife was gone. In her place stood a woman reborn, eyes alight with fire. "This ends now," she whispered. She walked toward the courthouse, toward the moment Daniel Brooks's laughter would finally die. "Tell me, if you had been standing there, mocked in public, treated as invisible, yet carrying a secret that could change everything, what would you have done?" Would you have broken down? Or would you have waited for the right moment, like Emily? Share your thoughts below. Your story might give courage to someone who needs it right now. The courthouse buzzed with anticipation. Whispers filled the air as people took their seats, sensing something monumental was about to unfold. Daniel Brooks strode in first, Lauren Hayes on his arm, both exuding smug confidence. Evelyn Brooks followed, her chin lifted high as though she were walking into a coronation, not a trial. And then Emily Carter entered. Calm, composed, dressed in a tailored teal suit that seemed to glow under the courtroom lights. She wasn't the broken woman Daniel expected. She was something else entirely. A woman who had nothing left to lose and everything to claim. Judge Margaret Collins struck her gavel. Court is in session. Daniel's attorney spoke first, his tone dripping with rehearsed authority. Your Honor, this is a straightforward matter. Mr. Brooks, a successful businessman, supported his wife financially for over a decade. The prenuptial agreement clearly entitles him to retain all premarital assets and any subsequent gains. Mrs. Carter has no independent income and therefore seeks unfair compensation. Daniel smirked, leaning back as though the verdict were already his. Lauren's hand tightened around his, triumphant. Evelyn nodded approvingly from the gallery. Then Olivia Bennet stood. She carried 2 folders, one black, one crimson. Her voice was measured, precise, carrying the kind of weight that made the room fall silent. Your Honor, she began, my client is far from dependent. What Mr. Brooks conveniently failed to disclose is that Mrs. Carter has for years maintained her own business, investments, and real estate holdings, separate from Mr. Brooks. All documented, all legal, all flourishing. She opened the black folder and slid it onto the judge's bench. Contracts, deeds, bank records. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's smirk cracked. That's impossible, he barked. She couldn't have done this without me. Emily finally spoke. Her voice was calm but firm, every word cutting through the air. You never saw me, Daniel. That was your mistake. While you dismissed me as invisible, I was building something real. Something that didn't need your approval. Gasps filled the courtroom. But Olivia wasn't finished. She opened the crimson folder. Furthermore, Your Honor, we submit evidence of Mr. Brooks's misconduct, documented infidelity, financial misrepresentation, and attempts to coerce Mrs. Carter into forfeiting rightful property. She handed over photographs. Daniel and Lauren at the restaurant. Daniel and Lauren inside the villa. Time-stamped and undeniable. Lauren's face drained of color. She shrank back in her seat, the smugness evaporating like mist in sunlight. These actions, Olivia continued, not only violate the dignity of this marriage, but directly breach clauses in the prenuptial agreement. Clauses Mr. Brooks himself insisted upon. Clauses that, when violated, protect every cent of Mrs. Carter's independent assets. The judge flipped through the documents, her face unreadable. The courtroom was silent. Daniel's composure shattered. She's lying. She's manipulating you. He slammed his hand against the table, his face flushed red. That woman is nothing. She's always been nothing. Judge Collins's gavel cracked down. Mr. Brooks, one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt. Emily did not flinch. She looked straight at him and, for the first time, allowed a small smile. This villa? It's mine. Those investments? Mine. The freedom you thought I'd never have? Also mine. And you. Her voice sharpened like steel. You're trespassing in a life you no longer control. The words landed like a thunderclap. Daniel froze, mouth half open, eyes wide. For the first time, he was speechless. The judge cleared her throat, her verdict heavy with finality. The evidence is clear. Mrs. Carter has established independent financial stability. Mr. Brooks not only failed to disclose his misconduct, but violated the very terms of the prenuptial agreement he relied upon. Therefore, all of Mrs. Carter's assets remain hers exclusively. Mr. Brooks's claims are denied. The gavel struck once, echoing through the chamber. A silence hung in the air, thick, electric. Then Lauren abruptly stood. Without a word, she picked up her purse, her heels clattering as she walked swiftly toward the exit. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. Her absence was the loudest statement of all. The audience shifted, whispers rising like a storm. Evelyn Brooks sat frozen, her face pale, her hands clutching her pearls as though they were the last anchor of her pride. And Daniel? Daniel sat like a statue, his skin drained of color, his body trembling. The mighty man who had once mocked Emily now looked like a child lost in a crowd. Emily stood, gathering her papers. She walked past him, pausing just long enough to whisper, "You never lost me, Daniel. You only lost the chance to stand beside me when I rose." Her words hung in the air like judgment itself. She didn't wait for a response. She didn't need one. Outside, cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but Emily didn't stop. She walked into the sunlight, her teal suit gleaming, her face calm. For years she had been in Daniel's shadow. Now, the world saw her for who she truly was. Behind her, Daniel stumbled out of the courthouse, abandoned by Lauren, scorned by Evelyn, stripped of his illusions. His empire of arrogance had crumbled in a single afternoon, and Emily? She was free. That evening, Emily sat in her new penthouse apartment, the one Daniel never knew existed, watching the Nashville skyline shimmer. She sipped tea, her journal open beside her, filled with the scars and victories of her journey. Her phone buzzed with messages of support. From Monica, from Victoria, from women she had helped along the way. One message read, "You gave me courage, Emily. If you can do it, maybe I can too." Emily smiled softly. For the first time, her story wasn't just hers. It was a beacon. And deep in her heart she knew. The real revenge wasn't Daniel's downfall. It was her rebirth. The days after the trial passed in a blur of headlines and whispers. Nashville's society pages buzzed, not with Daniel Brooks's usual triumphs, but with his downfall. "Socialite abandoned at court," one paper read. "Ex-wife's secret fortune leaves, Brooks empty-handed," another declared. Lauren Hayes vanished from the picture entirely, deleting photos, cutting ties, moving on to her next conquest as quickly as she had latched onto Daniel. Evelyn Brooks withdrew into seclusion, her pride too wounded to face the stares of acquaintances who had once envied her. The woman who once commanded a room with icy authority now hid behind drawn curtains. But Emily Carter? She emerged differently. No longer invisible, no longer dismissed. She had faced betrayal, humiliation, and loneliness, yet stood tall. Her strength became her crown, her dignity, her shield. In her new penthouse, sunlight streamed through wide windows onto shelves lined with books and photographs. The space felt alive, fresh flowers in glass vases, laughter echoing during gatherings of friends, the hum of possibility in every corner. Emily's consulting firm expanded, partnering with women-owned businesses, creating opportunities for those who had once been told they were useless now. She poured part of her wealth into a foundation that offered legal aid to women trapped in oppressive marriages. One evening, Monica Reed visited, carrying a basket of wildflowers from her garden. She looked around, eyes wide, almost reverent. "Emily, you've built a sanctuary." Emily's smile was soft, her voice steady. "Not just for me, Monica. for every woman who thinks silence is her only option. Victoria Grant, too, became more than a mentor. She became a partner. Together, they hosted workshops, speaking about resilience, dignity, and the power of self-worth. Emily's voice, once hushed by Daniel's dismissals, now carried strength into rooms filled with women who needed to hear it. When she stood before them, she did not speak as a victim, but as someone who had risen. And women in the audience wept openly, not just for her story, but for their own. Still, beneath the triumph, Emily was human. There were nights when she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing Daniel's voice like a ghost. "You're useless now." There were mornings when she remembered Evelyn's cold eyes, or the friends who had vanished when whispers turned against her. Healing wasn't instant. Scars don't vanish overnight. Yet every morning she rose. She brewed her coffee, opened her journal, and wrote the same reminder to herself. I am not defined by what was taken from me. I am defined by what I chose to build. Sometimes she would pause, touch the rim of her coffee cup, and whisper aloud, I survived. I am still here. One Sunday, she returned to her father's old farmhouse. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers drifting in through broken windows. Dust floated like memory in the sunlight. Emily walked the worn wooden floors, each step an echo of her childhood laughter, her father's calloused hands guiding her. She placed her hand on the frame of the kitchen door and whispered into the silence. You were right, Daddy. Respect isn't demanded by blood. It's earned by love and kindness. For the first time in years, tears fell freely, not of sorrow, but of release. She smiled through them, letting the house hold her grief and her triumph all at once. Meanwhile, Daniel Brooks struggled. Stripped of reputation, abandoned by Lauren, distanced even from his mother, he faced debts and failed ventures. His arrogance had been a mask. Without it, he was just a man grasping at fading shadows. Once he called Emily. His voice was hoarse, tinged with desperation. Emily, can we talk? Maybe start over? Emily listened in silence, the weight of his words pressing through the phone line. Then she answered gently, but firmly, each word deliberate. You never lost me, Daniel. You lost the chance to stand beside me when I rose, and some chances never return. She hung up, not with bitterness, but with peace. Life settled into a new rhythm, a healthier rhythm. Emily dined with friends, laughed without fear of judgment, traveled to cities she had once only dreamed of. In Rome, she touched the ruins and thought about survival. In Paris, she stood on a balcony overlooking the Seine, the night air cool against her skin, and thought, this is freedom, not money, not revenge, but choosing myself, finally. She took photos, not for show, but for memory. In each picture, her smile looked lighter, freer, as though she had finally stepped into the life she was meant to live. And so, her story became more than a personal victory. It became a reminder, for every woman watching, for every person who had ever been belittled, betrayed, or erased. Emily Carter was once invisible. Now, she was undeniable. If you've ever been told you're not enough, if you've ever felt erased in your own home, remember Emily's story. Silence is not weakness. Patience is not surrender. And dignity, once reclaimed, is the sharpest justice of all. Respect isn't guaranteed by titles, money, or family names. It is earned through kindness, loyalty, and love. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't about making someone else fall. It's about standing tall when they expected you to collapse. What about you? If you were in Emily's place, Would you have stayed silent and planned like she did, or would you have confronted Daniel earlier? X, have you ever witnessed or lived through a family injustice like this, where someone's sacrifice was dismissed until the truth came out? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story may give courage to someone who needs it right now. And remember, here, in this community, no one has to endure in silence. Every story is a voice for fairness, for dignity, for healing. If Emily's journey touched you, leave a message for yourself in the comments. What will you never again let someone take from you? Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to her betrayal stories and ring the notification bell. There are many more stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and unexpected turnarounds waiting for you here, because no one should suffer alone. Together, we turn pain into strength, betrayal into clarity, and endings into new beginnings.